There are nights when you lie still and look up at the sky. You may see the moon quietly drifting by, unhurried, without noise, simply there, as if it is doing nothing at all, except casting a gentle light, just enough for everything to become softer, slower, and calmer. But if you pause a little longer, if you truly feel, you may begin to wonder whether what you are seeing is really that simple. Because we are often told that the moon creates the tides, pulling the oceans upward and then letting them fall, like a breath of the earth. But the truth goes much deeper than that. The moon does not only touch the sea, it touches time. It touches the motion of this planet. It touches the way life forms, develops, and even the way we experience the world. And if you go deeper still, you may begin to notice something very subtle, that the influence of the moon is not only out there in the vast oceans, but also reflects something very close, very familiar within ourselves. From the perspective of Carl Gustav Jung, there are forces, quiet, unseen, yet shaping us in very deep ways. The movements within the mind are like tides, not always driven by a direct force, but by very subtle differences, gentle influences, continuous and persistent. And perhaps this is what makes the question far more intriguing. Not simply, why does the moon create the tides, but rather, how can something so distant influence an entire planet so deeply, and perhaps ourselves as well? In this video, we will not only explore physics or astronomy, but move together through a very slow, very gentle journey, where science and feeling meet. You will see that the moon does not only pull the oceans, but also slows time, keeps the earth stable, and quietly participates in the story of life. And at some point, you may begin to feel that these movements are not entirely unfamiliar, but like a rhythm you have felt before, yet never named. Welcome to my channel, where we do not only explore the outer world, but also listen to the deeper movements within the mind in a gentle, slow, and quiet way. Just enough for you to relax before sleep. If you feel that content like this brings you a little peace, a little stillness after a long day, you may subscribe so you don't miss the journeys ahead. And now, let everything slow down just a little. Breathe in very softly and begin with me a journey where the moon is not only in the sky, but also very close. 1. The moon is not just a decoration. As you remain in that very gentle state, you may begin to see the moon no longer as a distant object hanging in the sky, but as a familiar, quiet presence that has been there for a very long time, even before humans named it, and perhaps before we began to ask what it truly is. We often see the moon as a decoration, a light in the night, something beautiful, yet not truly connected to daily life. It appears, then disappears, full, then crescent, like a cycle, so familiar that we no longer question it. But if you pause, truly pause, and feel more deeply, you may begin to realize that this presence is not as neutral as it seems. The moon does not only shine, it acts very slowly, very gently, but continuously. And if you widen your perspective, you will see that its influence does not stop at the waves out there, where oceans rise and fall, but extends much further, much deeper, touching the very structure of this planet, you may never have thought about this, but the length of a day, what you experience every morning, every evening, was not always fixed. It has changed, very slowly, over billions of years, and part of that change comes from the moon. A very gentle pull, repeated over countless cycles, has slowed the Earth's rotation, little by little, until the 24 hours you live within are the result of a very long, very slow journey between two celestial bodies. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that some things do not need to be strong to create great change, only long enough, steady enough. Then, as you go deeper, you may see that the moon does not only affect time, it also keeps the Earth stable. The tilt of this planet is not fixed. It wobbles like a spinning top, and without a force close enough, strong enough to hold it, that wobble could become chaotic. And if that happened, the climate would shift, more extreme, less predictable. Life, as you know it, might never have developed in the way it has. But the moon is there, not interfering, not controlling, just present. And that very presence creates a deep stability. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that there are things in your life that do not need to do much. Just being there is enough to keep you from drifting too far. Then, as you go deeper still, you may begin to see that the moon's influence is not only physical, it also touches life. Coastal ecosystems, where water rises and falls in a steady rhythm, have become places where countless species live, reproduce, and grow. Creatures have learned to live within that cycle, to adapt, to respond, and gradually to synchronize. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that life does not only exist, it listens. It listens to the rhythms around it and adjusts itself in a very natural way. And that may also be true for you. You are also living within rhythms. There are days when you feel clear. There are days when you feel uncertain, moments of energy, and moments when you simply want to slow down, not because you are inconsistent, but because you are responding to currents you do not always see. Carl Jung once said that there are unconscious forces shaping our behavior without us knowing, yet we live by them every day. And perhaps the moon is a beautiful image of that. A force, not loud, not imposing, but undeniable. Then, as you go deeper still, you may see that the entire evolutionary history of this planet also carries the imprint of the moon, from early wet-dry cycles to transitional environments where life could begin, to the complex ecosystems that followed, all in some way have been influenced, not directly, not solely, but present, always. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that some influences do not need to be the main cause, and yet still shape the outcome. And that may also be true for you. Not everything in your life comes from big decisions. Sometimes it is the small things, very gentle influences, very subtle habits that shape who you are today. Then, as you remain with all of this, without needing to go further, you may begin to see the moon in a different way, not as a decoration, but as a partner, a presence that has accompanied the Earth for billions of years, not speaking, not asking, not standing out, but always there. And perhaps, in some very gentle way, you may feel that you are not separate from these movements. You are also part of this story, a very small part, but very real. And as you stay with that feeling, without needing to understand more, everything begins to slow. Thoughts no longer need to continue. Images soften, feelings settle, and you can just be in a space where nothing needs to be explained, only felt very gently, very deeply, and very still. And as you continue to rest in that quiet space, where everything seems to slow, you may begin to feel that the idea of a silent partner is not only between the Earth and the Moon, but also present in many other aspects of life. Things that are not obvious, not loud, yet keep everything moving steadily, continuously. You may imagine if one day the Moon were no longer there, not disappearing suddenly, but simply never having existed. Perhaps you would still see the night sky, but it would be darker, deeper, missing a familiar anchor. The oceans would still move, but without the strong rising and falling rhythms. The coastlines would be different. Ecosystems would change. And more importantly, the Earth might not have slowed its rotation as it has. Days would be shorter, life's rhythm entirely different, in ways difficult to imagine. But what matters is not the sudden change, but that the entire journey would not have unfolded as it has. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that there are things whose value you only recognize when you imagine they are gone. Familiar presences, repeating rhythms, things you rarely think about, yet always there. And that may also be true for you. There are things in your life that do not need to stand out, to matter. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the Moon does not try to create influence. It does not need to do anything more. It simply exists in a certain position with a certain mass, following a certain orbit, and from that, everything else naturally unfolds. No forcing, no control, just the result of presence. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep that you also do not always need to do to create value. Sometimes, the way you are present, the way you remain, steady, genuine, is already a powerful form of influence. Then, as you feel deeper, you may see that great movements are often created by very small forces, repeated continuously. Not one moment, but countless moments. Not one strong action, but repetition. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you do not need to change everything at once. You can begin very small, a habit, a thought, a response, and let it repeat. Then, as you go deeper still, you may realize that some relationships in life are like that between the Earth and the Moon, not always visible, not always spoken, but deeply influential, not saying much, not intervening, but their presence creates stability. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you may also be that person in someone else's life. No need to do something big, just be there. Then, as you feel deeper, you may see that the Moon does not change the nature of the Earth. It simply adjusts. It does not turn Earth into something else, but helps it become more stable, in its own way. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you do not need to become someone else to be better. You can become yourself, but more stable, clearer, more balanced. Then, as you go deeper still, you may realize that all of this, in the end, is not for you to remember, but to feel. Not to understand with the mind, but to recognize a rhythm, a presence, a very gentle connection. And as you remain with that feeling, without needing to go further, everything begins to settle a little more. Thoughts, slow, questions, no longer need answers. Images dissolve like a thin mist. Only a quiet sense remains that things are moving, even without your control, that there are forces holding you, even if unseen, and you can rest. No need to understand more, no need to do anything more, just gently let go. Your breath is still there, slow, steady, your body heavier, warmer, your mind no longer holding on to anything specific, and you can just drift very gently, very deeply, in a space where everything is okay, where you do not need to try, only allow sleep to come closer, softer, gentler, until you no longer notice the moment you fall asleep, and only a deep, soft, and peaceful stillness remains. The mechanism of tides, strength, born from inequality. As you continue to go deeper into this story, something may begin to shift, very gently, in the way you see tides, no longer just as water rising and falling, but as a more subtle movement, something almost invisible, yet creating very clear rhythms. We often think that the moon pulls the ocean like a direct force, as if there were an invisible string connecting it to the water's surface, lifting, then lowering it. But if you listen more closely, if you go a little deeper, you may begin to realize the story is not that simple. Tides do not come from a simple pull, they come from inequality, a very small difference that spreads and becomes movement. The moon does not affect the entire Earth in the same way. The side closer to it feels a stronger force. The side farther away feels a weaker force. And this difference creates something very interesting, very unexpected. Two bulges of water, not one, but two. One on the near side, one on the far side. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that sometimes movement does not come from a strong force, but from difference, a slight imbalance, a very small distance, but enough to create flow. Then, as you go deeper, you may see that the Earth does not stand still. It rotates very steadily, continuously, and as it turns, the coastal regions pass through these bulges, moving in, then moving out, and from that, tides appear. Not because the water is traveling from one place to another, but because the planet itself is moving through regions of different force. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that sometimes the changes you experience are not because the world around you is changing, but because you are moving through different states. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that reality is even more complex. Topography, ocean depth, currents, the Earth's rotation, all take part. There is no single factor, no simple cause, but a system, an interaction, a very subtle network. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that life is not simple either. What you feel does not come from a single cause, but from many factors woven together. What has happened, what you are experiencing, what you carry from before, all together shaping the present state. Carl Jung once said that the human mind is not a linear system, but a space where many forces coexist and interact. And perhaps tides are a beautiful image for that. Not one single pull, but difference, interaction, movement through different regions. Then, as you go deeper still, you may begin to realize that the two bulges on opposite sides are like two poles within your own experience. There are times when you feel very close to something, clear, strong, and there are times when you feel distant, uncertain, lighter, but both exist. Both belong to the same system. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to remain in only one state. You can have many states, many emotions, many degrees of clarity, and all of it is still you. Then, as you feel deeper, you may see that tides do not stop. They do not reach a peak and end. They continue, rising, falling, rising, falling, not because they are trying, but because the system is still in motion. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you do not need to force yourself to always be at your best. You can rise, you can fall, and that is not a flaw, it is rhythm. Then, as you go deeper still, you may realize that the inequality you once thought was a problem is actually the source of movement. If everything were completely uniform, no difference, no variation, there would be no flow, no change, no rhythm. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that the differences within you are not something to remove. They are what create movement, what create life. And as you remain with all of this, without needing to go further, everything begins to settle very gently. Concepts no longer need to be held. Images soften, thoughts slow down. Only a quiet feeling remains that everything is unfolding in its own way, that you do not need to control every force at play. You can simply be there, feeling, breathing, allowing everything to continue very slowly, very gently, very deeply. And in that state, you can rest. No need to understand more, no need to analyze. Just let go and allow sleep to come closer, softer, gentler, until everything dissolves into a very deep, very quiet, and very real stillness. And as you continue to remain in that gentle flow, you may begin to feel that the idea of inequality is no longer just a physical concept, but becomes a way of seeing, very soft, very deep, within your own experience. Because if everything in this world were completely uniform, if gravity were the same everywhere, if there were no differences, the ocean would not move, the surface would be still, no rising, no falling, no currents, no life along the shore. It is precisely that very small difference between near and far, between strong and weak, that creates movement. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that the things you once thought were uneven, unstable, not quite right, may actually be what make you alive. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the Earth does not resist this imbalance. It does not try to make everything perfectly even. It rotates steadily and allows that difference to pass through it, from one region to another, from one state to another. And from that, a rhythm is formed, a rhythm that does not need to be forced. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to eliminate all unevenness within yourself. You do not need to always be stable, always clear, always the same. You can allow different states to pass through. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that tides do not occur at the same time everywhere. Some places rise higher, some lower, some barely change. And this depends on coastline shape, ocean depth, and the way the Earth turns. There is no single formula, no fixed pattern. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that your experience does not need to be like anyone else's. The way you feel, the way you respond, the way you change, all can be different and still completely valid. Then, as you go deeper still, you may realize that there are times when tides are stronger, times when they are weaker, not because the system has completely changed, but because forces are aligning or cancelling. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that there are days when you feel clearer and days when you feel more uncertain, not because you are better or worse, but because the elements within you are in different states. Then, as you feel deeper, you may see that everything does not need to be fully understood to still function. The ocean does not need to know why it rises. The Earth does not analyze gravity. Everything still happens, precisely, steadily. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you do not need to understand everything to live fully. You can to be unclear and still be okay. Carl Jung once said that much of what guides us lies outside consciousness, but that does not mean it is wrong. It is simply deeper, and perhaps tides are a gentle way to feel that. A movement that does not need to be controlled, yet remains precise. Then, as you go deeper still, you may realize that the two bulges are not in opposition. They coexist, both outcomes of the same system. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that the different parts within you do not need to fight each other. You can be strong and vulnerable, clear and uncertain, moving forward and needing rest. All can exist together. Then, as you feel deeper, you may see that the movement of tides has no final destination, no endpoint. It does not strive for perfection. It simply continues. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you do not need to arrive somewhere to feel enough. You can be in the process, and that is enough. And as you remain with all of this, without needing to go further, everything begins to soften even more. Thoughts slow down, concepts dissolve, images become distant and gentle. Only a quiet feeling remains, that everything is moving in its own rhythm, that you do not need to hold, do not need to push, only allow. Breathing in softly, breathing out slowly, your body relaxing, little by little, your shoulders softer, your forehead at ease, your mind no longer holding on to anything, and you can just drift. No effort, no direction, just let yourself be carried very gently in a space where everything is enough, where you can rest very deeply, very softly, and very still. And as you remain in that feeling just a little longer, you may begin to notice that, like the ocean, you also have rhythms you do not need to control. They will come, they will go, they will balance on their own, and you only need to trust. Trust that everything is unfolding as it needs to, and in that very gentle trust, you can let go completely and allow sleep to come closer, to hold you very softly, very deeply, and very peacefully. 3. Tides on land. The earth also breathes. As you continue to listen, very gently, very slowly, you may begin to realize that the story of tides does not stop at the ocean. Not only the waves rising and falling, but something deeper, reaching into the very ground where you stand, where everything seems solid, stable, and unchanging. But if you listen more closely, in a very subtle way, you may begin to sense something unusual, that the earth is not entirely rigid. It also breathes, not in a way you can see with your eyes, not a clear movement, but a very small, very slow, very deep oscillation. As the moon passes, its gravity does not only pull the oceans, but also slightly deforms the crust of the ground beneath your feet can rise and fall by a few centimeters, very gently, very slowly, almost impossible to notice, and yet it is happening. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that there are movements that do not need to be obvious, and yet they still exist. Then, as you go deeper, you may begin to realize that we often think of stability as something unchanging, something fixed, solid, unaffected. But the earth shows something different. It remains stable, even while it is moving. It keeps its form, even while it is changing, little by little. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that stability is not the absence of change. Stability can be the ability to change without losing yourself, and that may also be true for you. You do not need to be rigid. You do not need to be unchanging. You can be softer, more flexible, and still be yourself. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that the influence of the moon does not stop at the surface. It passes through the entire planet, from the oceans to the crust to deeper layers. Everything participates in this movement. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that there are influences that do not only touch your surface, but go deeper into parts you do not always notice. Emotions, memories, deeper layers of the mind. Carl Gustav Jung once said that much of our psychological life unfolds beneath consciousness, like the subtle movements of the earth that you cannot see, yet are always present. And perhaps tides on land are a beautiful image for that, a movement unseen, yet real. Then, as you go deeper still, you may realize that the earth does not resist this force. It does not try to hold its shape. It allows the deformation to happen. very gently, very slowly, very naturally. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you also do not need to resist every influence. You do not need to hold yourself always strong. You can allow emotions to pass, allow changes to happen without losing yourself. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that the earth's softness is not a weakness. It is the reason it can absorb and adapt. If it were completely rigid, unable to bend, then forces might create greater fractures. But because it can yield just a little, it preserves its wholeness. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that the softness within you is not something to hide. It may be strength. Then, as you go deeper still, you may realize that these movements do not happen once. They repeat day after day, cycle after cycle, without stopping, and over time, they become a part of the system itself. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that small things, when repeated, can become a part of you. They do not need to be large, only consistent. And as you remain with all of this, without needing to go further, everything begins to settle very gently. Images soften, thoughts slow down, sensations ease, and you may begin to feel your own body also breathing very gently, very deeply, your chest rising, then falling, your abdomen soft, then releasing without effort, just happening. And in that moment, you may realize that, like the earth, you are not entirely rigid. You can also move. You can also soften. And that is completely okay. Then, as you stay with that feeling a little longer, everything continues to slow. Your breath more even, your body heavier, your mind no longer holding on to anything specific. Only a quiet space remains, very still, very deep, and very vast. And you can just be there. No need to understand more, no need to analyze. Just feel that even when you do not notice, there are movements still unfolding, very gently, very slowly, and very naturally. And in that natural flow, you can let go little by little, like the earth, gently breathing beneath the moon, and allow sleep to come closer, softer, deeper, until everything dissolves into a very gentle, peaceful, and quiet stillness. And as you continue to remain in that quiet state, you may begin to feel more clearly, not through thought, but through a very subtle sense that your body itself is participating in its own kind of tide, very delicate, very refined, just like the earth, rising, then falling, without you noticing, breathing in, then out, very slow, very steady, without needing to control, without needing to do it right. It simply happens. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that there are processes within you that do not require awareness, and yet function perfectly. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that, like the ground, seemingly still, yet gently shifting, you also have movements you do not always see, subtle emotions coming and going, passing thoughts, memories appearing, then fading, all like very small waves within. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to control all these movements. You do not need to quiet the mind. You do not need to stabilize everything. You can let it move very gently, very naturally. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that the earth does not feel disturbed when it is pulled. It does not react. It does not resist. It accepts, and in that acceptance, it remains balanced. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you can also accept what is happening within you. No need to change it immediately. No need to fix anything. Just notice and let it be there. Then, as you go deeper still, you may realize that there is a very subtle difference between being rigid and being steady. Rigid does not change. Steady can change while remaining centered, and the earth is not rigid. It is steady. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to be hard, to be stable. You can be soft, flexible, and still grounded. Then, as you feel deeper, you may see that these very small oscillations, over time, do not weaken the earth. On the contrary, they are part of how it exists. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that the small changes within you do not make you unstable. They are part of the process. Then, as you go deeper still, you may realize that not everything needs to be seen to be real. The movements of the ground, you do not see them, but they are real. The influence of the moon, you do not feel it directly, but it is happening. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that there are things within you, even if unclear, that are still real. Unnamed emotions, unformed thoughts, parts you have not yet understood, all still exist. And that is not a problem. Then, as you feel deeper, you may see that this entire system does not need to be perfect. It does not need absolute balance. It only needs to function, to continue. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you do not need to be perfect to be okay. You can be in process, and that is enough. And as you remain with all of this, without needing to go further, everything begins to soften even more. Your breath slower, your body heavier, your shoulders relaxed, your face softened, your mind no longer holding on to anything. Thoughts come, then go, like very gentle waves. No need to hold, no need to push, just let. And in that state, you may begin to feel a deep stillness, as if you are being held, not by a strong force, but by a very gentle presence, very steady, like the moon, always there, quiet, yet constant. And you can just be there. No need to do anything, no need to understand more. Just breathe very gently, very slowly, and allow your body to settle, layer by layer, like the ground, slowly rising, then falling in a rhythm no one sees, yet always present. And as you remain in that rhythm, you may begin to drift very gently, very deeply, into a space where everything slows, where you do not need to try, do not need to hold, only let go and allow sleep to come closer, softer, gentler, until everything dissolves into a very deep, very soft, and very peaceful stillness. See, The moon slows time, days grow longer. As you continue listening, in that very gentle state, you may begin to sense something quite unusual. The time, the thing you often believe to be fixed, steady, moving second by second, is not entirely unchanging as it seems. We are used to a 2-4-hour day, used to the rhythm of light and dark, used to the feeling that time always flows the same way, unchanged, unaffected. But if you go deeper, very slowly, very gently, you may realize that the length of a day was once different. Long ago, when the Earth rotated faster, a day was much shorter than it is now, and over time, very long, very slow. Something happened. Not a great collision, not a sudden event, but a very subtle interaction between the Earth and the Moon, a force, very gentle, yet continuous. The Moon does not only pull the oceans, it also creates friction through tides. As the Earth rotates, faster than the Moon orbits, the bulges of water are not perfectly aligned, but are pulled slightly ahead, and this offset creates a torque, very small, yet constant, acting on the planet. A force enough to slow it down, not immediately, not noticeable in a single day, but over millions, billions of years, the Earth spins more slowly. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that there are changes that do not need to be fast, to be profound, only long enough, steady enough. Then, as you go deeper, you may see that energy does not disappear. It is transferred from the Earth to the Moon. And because of that, the Moon slowly moves away. Not much, just a few centimeters each year, so small you cannot feel it. And yet, it is real, very real. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that there are distances that do not appear suddenly, but grow over time, very slowly, very gently. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that all of this is not just theory. It is recorded in fossils, in sediment layers, carrying traces of ancient tides, in laser measurements from missions of NASA, such as the Apollo missions, where humans placed mirrors on the Moon and measured distance using light. These data are not loud, but they are clear. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that truth does not need to be loud to exist. Then, as you go deeper still, you may realize that today, 24 hours, is not a standard. It is a result, the result of billions of years, of interaction, of a relationship unseen, yet inseparable. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that the present is not a beginning. It is part of a much longer process. And that may also be true for you. Who you are today did not appear suddenly. It is the result of experiences, of influences, of very small things, repeated over time. Carl Jung once said that we are shaped by what has accumulated, not only personally, but from deeper layers of the psyche. And perhaps the slowing of time is a beautiful image for that, a process, unhurried, unforced, yet irreversible. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that the Moon does not try to slow the Earth. It simply exists, and from that presence, everything unfolds. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you do not need to force yourself to change quickly. You can change very slowly, very naturally, without needing to notice right away. Then, as you go deeper still, you may realize that some things can only be understood over long spans of time. If you look at a single day, you will not see the Earth slowing, but if you look across billions of years, you will see a very clear change. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to judge your life in short moments. You can look wider, more gently, and as you remain with all of this, without needing to go further, everything begins to settle very softly. The idea of time becomes softer, no longer numbers, no longer pressure, just a flow, very slow, very steady. Your breath, the same. In, out, no need to hurry, no need to count. Your body, relaxing. Your mind, no longer holding on to past or future. Only this moment remains, very light, very deep, and you can just be there, in a space where time is no longer something you must keep up with, but something gently flowing with you. And in that flow, you can let go, little by little, like the Earth, slowly, slowing its spin, unnoticed, yet always happening. And you can also slow down, soften, and allow sleep to come closer, softer, deeper, until everything dissolves into a very gentle, quiet, and peaceful stillness. And as you continue to remain in that slow current, you may begin to feel that the idea of time slowing down is no longer a distant concept of astronomy, but something very close, very familiar, like your own rhythm. When you allow yourself to slow down, there is something very interesting when you think about how the Earth once spun faster. Days were shorter, the sun rose and set more quickly. Everything moved in a more hurried rhythm, and yet, over time, very long, very patient, a very gentle force slowed everything down, not to stop it, but to adjust it, to create a rhythm that life could adapt to. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that slowing down is not losing something. It may be returning to a more fitting rhythm. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the friction we speak of is not negative. It does not destroy. It transforms. Part of the Earth's rotational energy becomes the Moon's orbital energy. A part of motion is given away, and from that, a new balance is formed. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that not everything you lose is truly lost. Sometimes it is transformation, something changing form. Then, as you feel deeper, you may see that the Moon's gradual drifting away, though very slow, is still part of the story. Nothing remains unchanged forever. No relationship is entirely fixed, and yet that does not take away meaning, because over billions of years, that interaction has shaped this world. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that value does not lie in things lasting forever, but in what they create while they are present. Then, as you go deeper still, you may realize that there are traces left behind, not in human memory, but in the Earth itself. Rock layers, carrying the rhythm of ancient tides, fossils, recording the number of days in a year, hundreds of millions of years ago, all like quiet journals, very slow, very deep of the planet. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that what you experience also leaves traces, not always visible, but still there, in how you think, in how you feel, in how you see the world. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that measuring the distance between Earth and Moon, using light from mirrors left by the Apollo missions of NASA, is also a very beautiful image. Humans send light outward. The light touches the Moon, then returns. And from that, we know the distance very precisely. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that there are things you can only understand when you send a part of yourself outward and listen to what comes back. Then, as you go deeper still, you may realize that this entire process has no final goal, no perfect point. The Earth does not try to reach an ideal rotation. The Moon does not try to keep a fixed distance. Everything simply continues, following very natural laws. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to reach a perfect state. You can be in the process, and that is enough. Then, as you feel deeper, you may see that time is not a rigid line. It is soft. It changes. It stretches in ways you do not always notice. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that your sense of time can also change. Some moments pass very quickly. Some linger for a long time. And now, as you are here, listening, everything may be slowing down. And as you remain with that feeling, everything continues to soften a little more. The sense of what you must do fades. The pressure to be fast dissolves. Only a gentle flow remains. Very slow, very steady. Breathing in and out without needing to adjust. Your body relaxing little by little. Your shoulders soft. Your neck light. Your eyes gently closing. Your mind no longer holding on to specific thoughts. They come and go like distant waves. And you can just be there, in a space where time is no longer something you must keep up with, but something gently flowing with you. And in that flow, you can let go, layer by layer, like the Earth, slowly changing over billions of years, unhurried, unforced, simply unfolding. And you can also allow yourself to slow down, to soften, and to rest. No need to finish anything, no need to understand anything more. Just let go and allow sleep to come closer, softer, deeper, until everything dissolves into a very gentle, very deep, and very peaceful stillness. Woo, monthly tidal cycles, the interplay of the moon and the sun. As you remain in that very quiet state, you may begin to sense that the ocean is not simply rising and falling, but moving within a deeper rhythm, slower, more subtle, as if it is listening to something very distant, yet also very close. We often speak of tides as something that repeats each day, but if you observe more carefully, over a longer span of time, you may begin to notice that not every wave is the same. There are days when the water rises higher than usual, the waves stronger, deeper, and there are also days when everything softens, lighter, as if the ocean is resting. What creates this difference? It is not only the moon, it is a combination between the moon and the Sunday. When both align, when their gravitational forces pull in the same direction, they do not cancel each other. They resonate, they increase. And from this, spring tides appear. The waters rise higher, stronger, more distinct. But then, when they are no longer aligned, when the angle between them shifts, part of the force begins to cancel, and the ocean softens. Neap tides appear, gentler, lower, less dynamic. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that movement does not always come from a single source, but from interaction, from resonance, and sometimes from cancellation. Then, as you go deeper, you may notice that the ocean does not decide when to rise or when to fall. It responds to the forces acting upon it, to the positions of celestial bodies, to a rhythm much larger of which it is a part. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you are not entirely separate from those rhythms. You also respond to your environment, to what is happening around you, and also to what is happening within you. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that the tidal cycle is not fixed. It changes by the day, by the month, by the position of the moon, and that does not make it wrong. On the contrary, that very variation creates rhythm, a rhythm, not perfectly even, but very alive. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you do not need to be stable in a rigid way. You can change, at times strong, at times gentle, at times clear, at times uncertain, and all of it is part of the rhythm. Carl Gustav Jung once said that the human psyche does not move in a straight line, but in cycles, at times outward, at times inward, at times light, at times dark, and perhaps tides are a very gentle image of that. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that resonance is not always something you control. It happens when the right elements come together, and when that happens, everything becomes stronger, clearer. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that there are moments in life when everything aligns, thoughts, emotions, circumstances, and you feel very clear, very strong. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that there are also times when things do not resonate. They misalign, they soften each other, and you feel lighter, slower, less defined. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that this is not a problem. It is part of the cycle. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the ocean does not try to hold on to one state. It does not try to always remain high or always low. It allows every state to pass. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you too can allow yourself to change. No need to hold on to a fixed identity. No need to always be the same. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that this entire system moves within a vast rhythm, a rhythm not belonging only to the earth, but to the universe. And the ocean is simply a part, reflecting that rhythm. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you too are within that rhythm, not separate, not isolated, but a part. And as you remain with all of this, without needing to go further, everything begins to settle very gently. Thoughts slow, images fade, concepts no longer need to be held. Only a quiet feeling remains that everything is moving in its own rhythm, that you do not need to control it, only to feel, breathing in and out, very slow, very soft, your body relaxing, your mind easing, and you can just drift within a rhythm that does not need to be understood, does not need to be held, only to allow yourself to be carried very gently, very deeply, until everything dissolves into a very soft, peaceful, and quiet stillness. And as you continue within that slow current, you may begin to feel more clearly that the rhythm of the ocean is not only a physical phenomenon, but like a long, deep piece of music, where each note does not exist alone, but only has meaning within the whole. At times, the sound rises. At times, it softens, not random, not chaotic, but a coordination, a very subtle arrangement of forces you cannot see. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that your life is like that as well. Not everything is created by you. Not every emotion has a clear cause, but rather the result of many elements at once. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that when the moon and the sun align, it is not just a coincidence of position, but a moment where forces move together, pull together, increase together, and the ocean responds clearly, powerfully, without hesitation. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that there are moments in your life when everything within you moves in one direction. Thoughts, emotions, intentions, all aligned, and you feel a strong clarity, a flow without resistance. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that when the forces are no longer aligned, when they form an angle, part of the energy is not lost, but dispersed, softened, and the ocean changes, no longer rising as high, but not stopping, still moving, still alive. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that there are phases when you do not need to be at your strongest or your clearest. You can be softer, slower, and that is still part of the journey. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that this rhythm repeats not once, but again and again, by cycle, by month, by the moon's orbit around the Earth. And from that, something interesting appears, a kind of quiet predictability, not rigid, but a gentle knowing that after the high comes the low, after intensity comes softness. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to fear change, because change also has rhythm, and that rhythm continues. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that the ocean does not cling to the high tide. It does not try to hold it, not try to prolong it. It lets go very naturally, and when it lets go, it does not lose anything. It simply becomes something else. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you do not need to hold on to everything, not your emotions, not your thoughts. You can let them come and go. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that there is a deep harmony within all of this, not because everything is the same, but because they are different, yet still interacting. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that harmony is not the absence of difference. It is the allowance of differences to coexist. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that this entire system does not need a central controller. There is no single will behind it, only forces, movements, and from that, a natural rhythm emerges. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you do not need to control everything for things to be okay. You can trust that there is an order, even if you cannot see it. And as you remain with that feeling, everything softens a little more. Thoughts slow, images dissolve, emotions ease. Only a quiet feeling remains that you are being held within a larger rhythm, a rhythm not needing to be understood, only to be felt. Breathing in and out, very gently, very slowly, your body relaxing, each part softening, your shoulders dropping, your jaw loosening, your eyes closing naturally, and you can just drift like a wave, not needing to know where it goes, only moving with the rhythm, very light, very deep, very soft, and very natural. And as you remain in that state a little longer, you may begin to feel everything becoming more distant, lighter, slower, as if you are gently leaving the surface and entering a deeper, quieter space, where there is nothing left to think, nothing left to hold, only stillness. And within that stillness, sleep can come. No need to call it, no need to try. It simply arrives very gently, very softly, and holds you in a quiet embrace until everything dissolves into a deep, peaceful, and tranquil space. Luke, axial stability, the deeper climate role. As you continue listening, in that quiet state, you may begin to sense that the Earth is not as still as it seems. It does not only rotate, it also wobbles very gently, very slowly, like a spinning top that after turning long enough does not remain perfectly upright, but shifts in a long, deep rhythm, too subtle for the eye to see. This phenomenon is called precession, a movement almost invisible, yet carrying very large consequences for climate, for seasons, and for life on this planet. The Earth's axis is not fixed. It changes over time, very slowly, very gently, but without a force strong enough, close enough to hold it. That wobble could become greater, less predictable, and eventually lead to much more extreme climate variations. And this is where the moon once again appears, not as a controller, not as a force imposing, but as a presence, a point of balance, a force close enough, stable enough to keep that motion within certain limits. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that there are things that do not need to control, only to be present in the right way, to create stability. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that without the moon, the Earth would still exist. It would still rotate, still orbit the Sunday, but its axial tilt would not be as stable. It could vary, much more strongly, from small angles to very large ones, and from that, seasons would become more extreme, less predictable. There could be periods of intense heat and periods of deep cold, far beyond what you experience now. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep. That stability is not something given. It is often the result of very subtle forces holding things within balance. Then, as you feel deeper, you may look toward another world, Mars, where there is no large moon, to create a similar stabilizing effect. Its axial tilt varies more. Its climate shifts more dramatically, not in a steady, predictable rhythm, but through more chaotic variations. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that not every system has the same stability. Not every place has those holding forces. And that creates a profound difference over time. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the Earth's stability is not absolute. It still changes, still wobbles, but within limits, a range where life can adapt, a range where ecosystems can grow. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to be completely unchanging to be stable. You can change, but within a range where you remain yourself. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that the moon does not stop the Earth's wobble. It simply makes it gentler, more predictable, less extreme. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you do not need to eliminate all fluctuations in life. You only need to soften them, make them easier to move through. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that this entire story, Crow, is not about control. It is about relationship. A relationship spanning billions of years, without words, without awareness, yet continuous. And it is that continuity that creates stability. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that the connections in your life may serve a similar role. They do not need to be large. They do not need to be obvious, only steady. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that there are forces unseen that keep you from drifting too far. Perhaps a habit, a memory, a person, something familiar. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you are not holding everything alone. There are things holding you, even when you do not notice. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that stability does not come from stillness. It comes from movement that is balanced. Like a spinning top, it does not stand still. It spins, and in that spinning, it finds equilibrium. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to stop to be stable. You can continue, but in a rhythm that fits you. And as you remain with all of this, without needing to go further, everything begins to settle very gently. The idea of having to control dissolves. The feeling of holding everything together softens. Only a quiet sense remains that there are forces holding you very gently, very deeply, and very steadily, breathing in and out, slower, more even, your body relaxing, your shoulders soft, your chest light, your mind no longer holding on to specific thoughts. Only a wide, quiet, gentle space remains, and you can just be there, No need to do anything. No need to understand more. Just feel that, like the earth, you too are being held within a very subtle balance that you do not need to create. And within that balance, you can let go, little by little, like a spinning top, slowly stabilizing, without force, just happening. And sleep can come very gently, very deeply, holding you in a soft, peaceful, and quiet stillness. And as you remain in that gentle state, you may begin to feel that stability is no longer something rigid, no longer something that requires everything to stop, but becomes a living state, a soft balance where movement still exists, but no longer chaotic, like the earth, never truly still, yet stable. And perhaps, if you feel it deeply, this brings a quiet relief, because you do not need to stop completely to be at peace. You do not need to eliminate every thought. You do not need to erase every feeling. You can move, but within a rhythm that does not carry you away. And as you go deeper, you may realize that the Earth's wobble is not a flaw. It is not something to fix. It is part of the system. And because it exists, another force is needed to balance it, not to remove it, but to harmonize it. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that your own inner fluctuations are not a problem. They are part of you, a very natural part, and you do not need to fix them, only to find balance. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that the moon does not make the earth perfect. It does not eliminate change. It simply makes change easier to live with, less extreme, less abrupt. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you do not need to become a perfect version of yourself. You only need to become a version that is easier to live with, softer, gentler, more balanced. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the Earth's stability does not come from a single force. It is the result of many elements together: rotation, axial tilt, the moon's influence, all interacting. And from that, balance emerges. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to find a single solution for everything in life. Sometimes, balance comes from many small things together. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that the moon is not loud. It does not create immediate change. It works very slowly, very steadily. And because of that, it creates effects lasting millions of years. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you do not need to change quickly, to change deeply. You can move slowly and still go far. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that there are things you can only see when you look long enough. If you look at a moment, you will not see the Earth's stability. But if you look across millions of years, you will see a deeply balanced system. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to judge yourself in short moments. You can give yourself time. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that there is a very quiet peace in knowing that you do not have to hold everything alone. There are forces supporting you. There are rhythms guiding you, even when you do not see them. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you can let go a little, not everything, just a little. And as you remain with that feeling, everything continues to soften even more. Thoughts no longer need to continue. Questions no longer need answers. Images fade like mist. Only a quiet sense remains that you are being held within a larger system that you do not need to manage alone. Breathing in and out, slower, more even, your body relaxing deeper, your shoulders soft, your chest light, your abdomen releasing, your mind no longer holding on to anything. Thoughts come and go very gently, and you can just be there. No need to do anything, no need to understand more, only feel a soft stability, a flexible balance, a state where you can both move and rest. And as you remain in that state a little longer, everything continues to slow, softer, more distant, more quiet, as if you are drifting into a deeper space where there is no pressure, no need to control, only stillness. And within that stillness, sleep can come very gently, very deeply, holding you in a soft, peaceful embrace until everything dissolves into a quiet, gentle, and deeply restful calm. 7. The role in life, from chemistry to ecosystems. As you continue to move deeper into this story, you may begin to sense that the moon does not only touch the water, does not only create the rising and falling rhythms of the ocean, but also touches something deeper, very deep, where life began. Long before there were plants, before there were animals, before there were forms you could recognize, the earth already had certain special places where water did not remain still, but constantly changed. Places, sometimes submerged, sometimes exposed, wet, then dry, repeating again and again. And within those very simple cycles, something began to happen. When the water receded, molecules, the very small components of matter, became more concentrated. When the water returned, they were stirred, connected, and transformed, not once, but millions of times, billions of times. A process, very slow, very repetitive, and very patient. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that complex things do not always begin from complexity. Sometimes they begin from very simple cycles, repeated long enough. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that tides were not the only cause of life, but they created an environment, a space where new things could emerge. No forcing, no controlling, just allowing conditions. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to create everything in your life. Sometimes you only need to create the environment, a space, a state. And from that, what is needed will arise. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that once life began, tides did not stop. They continued, no longer just a foundation, but becoming part of the system. In coastal regions, where water meets land, a very rich world emerged. Marshes, estuaries, mangrove forests, places not fully water and not fully land, but a transition, a space between two states. And it is there that life becomes diverse, abundant, flexible. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that the in-between spaces are not unclear places, but places full of life. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that tides do not only bring water and take it away, they carry nutrients, they carry energy, they carry connection between regions. And from that, ecosystems are nourished. No central control, no master plan, only through movement. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that life does not exist in isolation. It needs exchange, movement, connection. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that the moon does not only influence the environment, but also biological rhythms. There are organisms that do not look at clocks, do not count days, yet still know when the time is right. Corals spawn with the lunar cycle. Fish lay eggs with the tides. Many marine species live by semi-lunar rhythms with remarkable precision, not because they understand, but because they synchronize with a rhythm larger than themselves. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you also have such rhythms. Times when you feel clear, times when you feel uncertain, times when you want to act, and times when you need rest. Not random, but rhythm. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the moon becomes a kind of clock, not with hands, not with numbers, but with light and force. A clock you do not need to look at, to feel. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to control everything with your mind. There are things you can simply feel. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that this entire story is not about the moon creating life, but participating in it. A part, an element, an influence that cannot be ignored. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you do not need to be the center to have meaning. You can be a part, and that is enough. And as you remain with all of this, without needing to go further, everything begins to settle very gently. Images fade, thoughts slow, emotions soften. Only a quiet feeling remains, that life does not need to hurry, that everything can unfold in its own rhythm, breathing in and out, very slow, very soft. Your body relaxing, your mind no longer holding on to anything, and you can just be there, in a space where you do not need to do anything, do not need to become anyone, only to be, and allow yourself to be carried within a rhythm, very deep, very gentle, and very natural. And within that rhythm, sleep can come very softly, very deeply, holding you in a gentle embrace until everything dissolves into a quiet, peaceful, and restful stillness. And as you remain in that gentle flow, you may begin to feel that the story of life is no longer something distant, but something very close, like your own breath right now, slow, steady, effortless. Because if you look a little deeper, you may notice that what once happened on Earth is still happening in another way within you. Those wet, dry cycles that once allowed molecules to come together, separate, and come together again have not ended. They continue in how you feel, in how you think, in how you change. Little by little, there are moments when you are full of thoughts, full of emotions, full of energy. And there are moments when you recede, quieter, lighter, less. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that both states are necessary. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that repetition is not meaningless. It creates accumulation, very slow, very subtle, and over time, something new emerges, just as life did not begin in a single moment, but from countless repetitions. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep that you do not need to change instantly. To change truly, you can repeat gently, steadily, and let time do the rest. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that those in-between zones, where water meets land, where nothing fully belongs to one state, are where life is richest. Not where everything is stable, not where everything is chaotic, but in transition. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you also have such transitional spaces within you, phases not yet clear, not fully the old, not yet the new. And that is not a problem. It may be where you are growing. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that tides do not only carry water, they carry connection. They link regions together, carry nutrients from one place to another, spread life. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not exist in isolation. What you experience, what you learn, what you feel, can all extend outward, influence, connect. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that creatures that follow lunar cycles do not know what they are doing. They do not analyze, do not plan, yet they synchronize very precisely, very naturally. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that you too can trust your inner rhythms. Not everything needs explanation. Not everything needs to be understood, only felt. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that there is a quiet peace in knowing that you do not need to control everything for things to continue. You do not need to create rhythm. You are already within it. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you can let go a little, not everything, just a little. And as you remain with that feeling, everything softens a little more. Your breath slower, deeper, your body heavier, as if gently supported, shoulders dropping, chest softening, belly relaxing. Your mind no longer holding on to specific thoughts. They come and go like distant waves, and you can just be there in a space where nothing needs to be done, nothing needs to be achieved, only to exist very gently, very quietly, and very truly. And as you remain there a little longer, everything begins to drift further away, softer, lighter, as if you are floating very slowly in a calm ocean. No large waves, only very gentle movements, carrying you deeper into a space where there is nothing left to think, nothing left to hold, only stillness. And within that stillness, sleep can come without calling, without effort, simply arriving very softly, very deeply, holding you in a gentle embrace until everything dissolves into a quiet, peaceful, and restful calm. Ba, Moonlight, a subtle but profound influence. As you remain in that quiet state, you may begin to notice that not all influences in this world come from strong, obvious, measurable forces. There are influences, very light, almost intangible, yet they move quietly, deep within, and leave very real traces. Moonlight is one of those. It does not pull the ocean upward. It does not deform the planet. It does not create large movements you can immediately see. And yet, it is there, very soft, very gentle. And if you pause on a moonlit night, you may feel that everything becomes different. Not because there is strong light, but because darkness is no longer complete. A thin layer of light rests upon everything, softening edges, making space less sharp, less defined, and perhaps less frightening. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that, for many living beings, moonlight is not just beautiful. It is a signal, a subtle piece of information about the environment. Nocturnal predators may behave differently under bright moonlight. Prey also adjust their movement. Some nights, there is enough light to see. Other nights, darkness deepens. And from that, behavior changes. No thinking required, no decision needed, only response. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light. That influence does not need to be strong to change behavior. It only needs to be subtle enough. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that moonlight is not a strong physical force. It does not push. It does not pull. It simply illuminates. But that illumination changes how things are seen. And when perception changes, behavior changes. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that how you see something may matter more than the thing itself. A situation may remain the same, but if you see it differently, you respond differently. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that moonlight does not create its own energy. It reflects the sun's light, softened, gentler, less intense, more receivable within the night. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that some things do not need to generate their own light to have meaning. They only need to reflect in their own way. Carl Gustav Jung once said that parts of the psyche do not shine directly like consciousness, but reflect. And perhaps moonlight is a very beautiful image of that. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that moonlight is not constant. It changes, full, then crescent, bright, then nearly gone. But that cycle is not loss. It is transformation. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you too have such cycles. Times of clarity, times of dimness, times of fullness, times of emptiness, and all of it belongs to the same process. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that moonlight makes no noise. It does not demand attention. It does not force itself to be seen. It simply is there. And if you choose, you can notice it. If not, it remains without needing you. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that some values do not need recognition to exist. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that the influence of moonlight is not strong, but continuous. night after night, cycle after cycle. And it is that continuity that creates impact. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that small things, repeated, can become very powerful. And as you remain with all of this, everything softens very gently. Images soften, thoughts slow, emotions ease. Only a quiet feeling remains, like moonlight resting over stillness, breathing in and out, very softly, very slowly, your body relaxing, each part softening, your shoulders dropping, your face easing, your mind no longer holding on to anything specific, only drifting, very light, very deep, and you can just be there, in a space where nothing needs to be fully clear, nothing needs to be fully understood, only enough light to feel. And within that softness, sleep can come very gently, very deeply, holding you as moonlight holds the night, without rush, without force, only quiet, soft, and deeply peaceful. To 9. Solar and lunar eclipses, when geometry becomes visible. As you remain in that very quiet state, you may begin to sense that there are moments in the universe when things that are usually distant, abstract, suddenly become close, very close, as if you could touch them through experience, not through theory, but through feeling. Solar eclipses and lunar eclipses are such moments. Most of the time, the sun, the earth, and the moon move along their own paths, not perfectly aligned, not fully overlapping, each following its own orbit, very steady, very precise, yet independent. But then, in rare moments, everything aligns. The sun, the moon, and the earth fall into a single line, as if the universe, for a brief instant, rearranges itself to create an image you can actually see. And when that happens, light is obscured, not because it disappears, but because something moves into the exact position. In a solar eclipse, the moon, a much smaller body, can cover the sun, a massive star, simply because distance and apparent size happen to match almost perfectly. A coincidence, very precise, very delicate, yet enough to turn daylight into darkness. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that something does not need to be large to create a great effect. It only needs to be in the right place. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that these phenomena are not magic. They can be explained through geometry, through orbits, through distance. And yet, when you stand beneath the sky and watch the light slowly fade, at noon, you do not feel it as an equation. You feel it as an experience. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that there are things you can understand intellectually, but only through experience do you truly know. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that in a lunar eclipse, the Earth stands between the sun and the moon, and its shadow falls across the moon, dimming the moonlight, then turning it into a deep red glow, a color neither fully dark nor fully bright, but in between. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that there are moments when you are not fully in the light, nor fully in the dark, but in a space between. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that alignment does not happen often. It is rare. It requires timing, position, precision, and when it happens, it is brief. It does not linger. It does not hold on. It simply appears and then passes. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that there are moments in life when everything aligns. Everything becomes clear, meaning reveals itself, but it does not last forever, and that does not reduce its value. In fact, its brevity is what makes it special. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that a solar eclipse does not make the sun disappear. It is still there, only temporarily hidden. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that there are parts of you that have not disappeared, but are simply out of sight for a time. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that when light is obscured, it does not fully vanish. It changes, softer, different. And sometimes, in those moments, you can see things that are usually too bright to notice, like the solar corona, visible only when the sun is covered. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that some things can only appear when something else steps back. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that this entire phenomenon is the result of many elements. No single element creates it alone. The Sunday, the moon, the earth, distance, perspective, all together. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that meaningful experiences in life also do not come from a single cause, but from convergence. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that eclipses are moments when physics becomes experience, when laws become visible, when what is always happening becomes suddenly clear. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that there are truths always present, waiting for the right perspective to be seen. And as you remain with all of this, everything begins to settle very gently. The image of the sky fades, light softens, thoughts slow. Only a quiet feeling remains that everything is moving according to very deep laws that you do not need to control. Breathing in and out, very softly, very slowly, your body relaxing, your mind letting go, and you can just be there, in a space where nothing needs to be fully clear, nothing needs to be fully illuminated, only enough to feel. And in that softness, you can begin to let go, little by little, like light fading during an eclipse, not forced, not rushed, just natural. And sleep can come very gently, very deeply, holding you in a quiet, peaceful stillness. And as you remain in that gentle space, you may begin to feel that eclipses are not only rare events in the sky, but also moments when separate things come together with quiet precision, even if only for a short time. Most of life unfolds in parallel. You think, but your emotions move differently. You understand, but do not always feel. You want, but do not always act. Different parts of you, like the sun, the moon, and the earth, moving in their own orbits, not fully aligned. But then, there are rare moments. Everything aligns. You understand, and feel you want and are ready to act. A clarity appears, no effort, no forcing, just happening. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that such moments do not need to last, to matter. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that a solar eclipse is an obscuring, but not a loss. The sun is still there. The light still exists, only temporarily hidden. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that there are times when your light feels gone, when clarity fades, but it does not mean it is lost. It may simply be covered. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that when light dims, your eyes adjust. You begin to see different things. Stars may appear in daytime. Details, usually hidden, become visible. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that when something steps back, space opens for something else to appear. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that alignment cannot be forced. You cannot make an eclipse happen just because you want it. It needs time, position, exact conditions. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that some things in life cannot be rushed. They arrive when conditions are right. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that rarity does not make something distant, it makes it meaningful, because you know it does not happen often, and when it does, you are there. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that rare moments can carry a depth that frequent ones do not. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that in a lunar eclipse, the Earth creates shadow. A shadow, not negative, but part of the system. Without shadow, there would be no eclipse. Without obscuring, no experience. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that the shadow within you is not always something to remove. It may also create what pure light cannot. Carl Gustav Jung spoke of the shadow as an essential part of the psyche, not to be feared, but to be understood. And perhaps a lunar eclipse is a gentle image of that. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that everything returns. Light comes back, the sky brightens, the eclipse ends, the shadow passes, nothing is held, nothing is stuck. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that all states are temporary, whether light or dark. And as you remain with all of this, everything softens a little more. The sky fades, movement slows, thoughts drift. Only a quiet feeling remains that everything has its time. No need to rush, no need to hold. Breathing in and out, very gently, very slowly. Your body relaxing deeper, your mind no longer holding on to images, and you can just be there. And slowly, very naturally, sleep can come, soft, deep, and peaceful. 10. What if there were no moon? As you continue listening, in that quiet state, you may begin to ask a very gentle, yet very deep question. What would happen if something familiar, always present, suddenly were gone? If one night you looked up and the moon was no longer there, not hidden by clouds, not in a crescent phase, but completely absent. At first, you might think everything would remain the same. The earth would still turn. The sun would still rise. Days would come and go. Life would continue. And that is true. The earth would still exist. But if you go deeper, very slowly, very gently, you may begin to notice everything would be different. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but gradually, accumulating over time. The oceans would still have tides, but weaker. The rising less strong. The movement smaller, less energetic. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that when an influence disappears, everything does not vanish, but intensity changes. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the earth would rotate faster, days would be shorter, the sun would move across the sky more quickly, time might feel faster. Not because clocks change, but because the rhythm does. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that your sense of time is not always fixed. It can shift in ways you do not always notice. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that the Earth's tilt would be less stable, greater swings, less predictability, climate more extreme, life needing to adapt more intensely. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that the stability you experience is not guaranteed. It is held by forces you do not always see. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that coastal regions would change, less dynamic, yet less rich. Ecosystems tied to tides would shift. Some might disappear, others adapt. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that life depends not only on presence, but on interaction. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that the sky would change. No solar eclipses, no moments when daylight softens and the universe becomes visible in a single instant. An experience gone, not because it is impossible, but because the conditions are no longer there. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that some experiences exist only when many elements come together. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that all of this would not destroy the earth. It would still live, but it would no longer be the earth you know, not the same rhythms, not the same balance. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that a system can continue, yet become something different. Then, as you feel deeper, you may notice that the moon is not the center. It does not control everything, but it participates deeply, continuously, and that participation helps shape what you experience. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that in your life there are things not central, yet deeply influential. A small habit, a person, a memory, a rhythm. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the question, what if it were gone, is not only about loss, but about recognizing value, not by holding tightly, but by seeing clearly, gently. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to lose something to understand its value. You can see it now, And as you remain with all of this, everything softens very gently. Assumptions dissolve, questions fade. Only a quiet feeling remains that everything is as it is, and that is enough. Breathing in and out, slower, deeper, your body relaxing, your mind releasing imagined scenarios, and you can just be there in a space where nothing more is needed, nothing needs to be changed, only to feel what is already present, very quietly, very deeply, and very real. And as you remain in that gentle reflection, you may begin to sense that this question is not only about the moon, but about your own life. There are things always there, quiet, unassuming, not demanding attention, and yet they help keep everything moving steadily, like the moon. You do not think about it every day. You do not need to see it to know it is there. But if it were gone, something would change. Not immediately, not obviously, but deep within, the rhythm would shift. And if you pause here, you may feel something very light, that there are things in your life just like that. A small habit, a familiar space, a quiet presence of someone, not loud but steady, and they hold part of your rhythm. And as you rest with that awareness, everything softens once more. Thoughts thin out, images fade. Only a quiet presence remains, that everything is already in place. Nothing to add, nothing to remove. Breathing in and out, very slow, very soft. Your body letting go deeper. Your mind drifting like a dream, dissolving. And you can just be there. And slowly, very gently, you drift, very soft, very deep, into a space of stillness, where sleep arrives without effort, holding you in a quiet, gentle, and peaceful rest. 11. The origin of the moon. As you continue listening, in that very calm state, you may be the moon is one of those things. If you look up at the night sky, you see a glowing sigh as if, but if you go back, very far, very deep, to a time when Earth was still very young, you would see no stillness, no far, only motion, only sea, only N. And in one moment, A-L, not a gentle touch, but a mass, strong enough to melt part of the planet. Strong, E, strong. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle. That som then, as you go deeper, you may see that from no plan, no only, the resu, and over T closer, bonding, and eventu, an object that would later become an inseparable part of the system. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that from what is broken, som, then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that very collision. Why? Not because it came from somewhere else, but a part that see. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that there are, then, as you go deeper, you may realize that what is remarkable, but what happened afterward, from a very violent collision, a system gradually stable, a relationship formed, A, RH, tides, C, 3, things, very gentle, very regular, very long-lasting, emerged from a moment of near total chaos. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep. That stability does not always come from a stable beginning. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there is a profound transformation in this story, from energy to form, from chaos to structure, from collision to orbit. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that what you go through can also transform, not immediately, but over time. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that that collision did not only create the moon, it also changed Earth itself, its rotation speed, its structure, its axial orientation. Everything was affected. And from that, a new path began. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that there are events that not only create something new, but also change you. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that without that collision, there might not be a moon as you know it. No familiar rhythms, no influences that shaped life. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that there are things you did not choose, yet they become an important part of your path. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that there is a very special kind of calm when you look back, that what was once chaotic, confusing, intense, can, over time, become meaningful, not because it changed, but because you see it differently. Carl Jung once said that not everything in the mind begins with order, but with conflicts, with collisions, with parts that are not yet integrated. And it is the process of recognizing, connecting, and integrating that creates a deeper wholeness. And perhaps the story of the moon is a very vast, very distant, yet also very close image of that. Then, as you remain with all of this, without needing to go further, everything begins to settle very gently. The images of collision fade, the movements slow down, the thoughts drift farther away. Only a very quiet feeling remains, that from very intense things, very gentle things, can arise, breathing in and out, very slowly, very softly. The body relaxes, the shoulders drop, the chest softens. The mind no longer holds onto the story, just feeling, and you can just be there, in a space where nothing needs to be perfect, nothing needs to begin the right way, only allowed to become. And in that allowance, you can let go, little by little, like fragments of matter, slowly coming together into a new form, very slowly, very gently, and very naturally. And sleep can come, not rushed, not forced, just very soft, very deep, holding you in a stillness that is very calm, very quiet, and very peaceful. And as you continue to remain in that gentle space, you may begin to feel that what makes this story special is not only the collision itself, but how everything afterward gradually finds its way back into a kind of order. Not immediate order, not perfect arrangement, but a process. Fragments, after being scattered, do not instantly become a unified whole. They rotate, drift, collide, again, stick, then separate. A continuous sequence of motion. Not central control, no clear intention, only forces seeking balance. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that not everything needs to be clear at the beginning to eventually become meaningful. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the formation of the moon is not a single moment, but thousands, millions of years of accumulation, bit by bit, orbit by orbit, small collisions after the great one. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that big things are rarely completed in one step, but through many small steps, repeated. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that in that entire process, nothing is wasted. Fragments that did not become the moon may return to Earth. Others travel farther away. Every movement becomes a part of the final outcome. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that what you go through, even if not kept, can still contribute to who you are. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the moon did not form perfectly from the beginning. It changed, gradually stabilized, found its orbit, found its position, and over time, it became a very familiar part of the sky. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you also do not need to be complete immediately. You can become stable over time. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there is something very beautiful in how an event that seems destructive opens up a new possibility. Without collision, there would be no separation. Without separation, there would be no moon. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that there are things that can only appear when something else changes. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that there is a very special calm in looking at this process from a great distance. No longer violence, no longer chaos, only a story, a process, a formation. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep. The distance can change the way you see. What was once intense can become gentler when seen from farther away. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that the moon today no longer shows obvious signs of its chaotic beginning. It is calm, stable, orbiting Earth in a steady rhythm. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that what you see does not always reflect how it began. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that there is a profound transformation from collision to connection, from an event of separation to a long-term relationship. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that what begins in conflict does not have to end in conflict. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that this entire story does not need to be fully understood to be felt. You do not need to know every detail, every step. Just feel that there has been a very long, very deep process that has brought everything to where it is now. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you too have such a process. No need to remember everything. No need to understand everything. Just exist. Then, as you remain with all of this, without going further, everything settles a little more. Images of motion slow down. Thoughts fade. Feelings soften. Only a quiet sense remains that everything has traveled a very long journey to arrive here. Breathing in and out, very slowly, very softly. The body relaxes more deeply, the shoulders drop, the chest softens. The mind no longer holds onto the story, just feeling a very gentle stability, and you can just be there, in a space where nothing needs to be explained, nothing needs to be analyzed, only to be very light, very deep, and very still. And in that stillness, you can let go, little by little, like a system, gradually finding balance, not forced, just unfolding. And sleep can come very gently, very deeply, holding you in a stillness that is very soft, very calm, and very peaceful. Sharar, Earth's silent partner. As you continue to remain in that very quiet space, you may begin to feel that there are things in this world that do not stand at the center, do not attract attention, do not demand to be seen, yet still help shape everything in a very deep, lasting, and quiet way. The moon is one of those things. It is not the primary source of light. It does not generate energy like the Sunday. It does not control every motion. It does not decide everything. And yet, if you look long enough, deeply enough, you will see its influence is everywhere. In the oceans, with their rising and falling tides. In time, as days slowly lengthen over billions of years. In climate, as the axial tilt is kept more stable, so seasons do not become too extreme. In life, as repeating cycles create environments for ecosystems to grow, and if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that there are influences that do not need to be direct to be important. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the moon does not work quickly. It does not change everything in a moment. It does not create large shifts immediately. It works very slowly, very steadily, very patiently. And because of that, it can create effects that last for millions, billions of years. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that profound changes do not need to be fast. They only need to be continuous. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that the moon does not show off. It does not need to be noticed. It does not need recognition. It simply exists. And from that presence, everything gradually takes shape. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you also do not need to always be seen to have meaning. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that there is a very subtle difference between control and influence. Control is force. Influence is creating conditions. The moon does not control Earth. It does not decide what the oceans must do. It does not command the climate. It does not arrange life. It simply creates forces, conditions, and from that, everything self-adjusts. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to control everything to create change. You can influence in a very gentle way. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there are things not immediately visible, yet with long-lasting impact, a repeated rhythm, a habit, a steady presence. These things are not prominent, but over time, they shape. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that what you do every day, even if small, can still create impact. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the moon does not change its role. It does not try to become the Sunday. It does not try to shine brighter. It keeps its place, and in that place, it has meaning. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep that you do not need to become something else. To have value, you can be yourself. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there is a very special calm in realizing that there are things supporting you that you do not always notice. Rhythms, structures, conditions formed long ago. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you are not entirely alone. You are part of a very large system. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the message of all this is not complexity, but a very deep simplicity, that there are things that do not need to be big, to be important, do not need to be fast, to be profound, do not need to be obvious, to create impact, only to be present, long enough, steady enough. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you too can live in that way. Then, as you remain with all of this, without going further, everything begins to settle, very gently. Thoughts dissolve, images fade, feelings soften. Only a quiet sense remains that you are being held within a very large rhythm, that you do not need to do everything, only to be a part, breathing in and out very slowly, very softly. The body relaxes more deeply, the shoulders drop, the chest softens, the mind no longer holds onto anything specific, just drifting, very light, very deep, and you can just be there, in a space where nothing needs to be proven, nothing needs to be forced, only to be present, very light, very still, and very enough. And in that enoughness, you can let go, little by little, like moonlight, quietly shining, without needing to be seen, and let sleep come very gently, very deeply, holding you in a stillness that is very soft, very peaceful, and very light. And as you continue to remain in that gentle quiet, you may begin to feel that the idea of a silent partner is no longer just about the moon, but gradually expands, touching how you see the world and how you see yourself, because there are things that do not need to speak, yet still accompany, do not need to appear clearly, yet still support, do not need to stand in front, yet still shape the path. The moon has never been prominent in the way the sun is. It does not wake the morning. It does not bring brilliant light. It does not make you squint to see. And yet, it is there when everything settles, when the world slows down, when strong light fades, and subtler things begin to appear. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that there are parts of life that only become clear when everything else softens. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the moon is not in a hurry. It does not shift suddenly. It does not move in a way that demands attention. It follows an orbit, very steady, repeating, night after night, cycle after cycle, without needing to prove anything. And that repetition creates rhythm. A rhythm the oceans listen to, a rhythm life adapts to, a rhythm time itself slowly changes with. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that repetition is not boredom. It can be the foundation of stability. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there is a very subtle difference between doing something big and being there long enough. A big action can create immediate change, but a steady presence can create deeper change. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you do not always need to create something big to have meaning. You can be there, and that is enough. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the moon does not need to be seen to have influence. Even when clouds cover it, even when you do not look up, it is still there, still affecting, still participating. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that your value does not fully depend on whether you are seen or not. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there is a gentle reassurance that not everything important needs to be obvious. Not every influence needs to be strong. Not everything needs to be explained. Some things simply need to exist. And from that existence, influence naturally spreads. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the moon does not try to influence the oceans. It does not struggle. It does not strain. It simply is itself. And from that, gravity naturally arises. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you do not need to try so hard to create impact. Sometimes, simply being yourself in a steady way is enough to create change. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that this entire story is not about greatness, but about subtlety. Not about standing at the center, but about being in the right place. Not about doing everything, but about participating consistently. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you too can live in that way. Not too much, not too fast, just enough. Then, as you remain with all of this, without going further, everything settles a little more. Thoughts no longer need to continue. Images fade away. Feelings soften like still water, breathing in and out, very slowly, very softly. The body relaxes more deeply. The shoulders drop completely. The chest softens. The belly releases. The mind no longer holds on to anything. Only a vast space remains, very quiet, very light. And you can just be there. No need to do anything. No need to become anyone. Only to be present, very light, very deep, and very real. And in that presence, everything dissolves. Tensions, thoughts, worries, layer by layer, like a surface of water, becoming still when there is no wind, and you drift very lightly, very deeply, into a space where there is no need to control, no need to try, only stillness. And in that stillness, sleep can come without calling, without searching, just appearing, very gently, very softly, and holding you in a very tender way, like moonlight, quietly shining, not showing off, not rushing, just very calm, very deep, and very peaceful. 13. The moon as a symbol of the unconscious. As you continue to remain in that very quiet space, you may begin to feel that the moon is not only an object in the sky, but also an image, very deep, very close, reflecting some part of the human mind itself. In the perspective of Carl Gustav Jung, the mind is not only what you think, what you know, or what you can name. Beneath that layer of consciousness, there is another world, broader, deeper, and slower, where emotions, memories, images, and parts not yet understood still exist quietly. And if you pause for a moment, looking up at the moon, you may begin to notice a very subtle similarity. The moon does not shine on its own. It does not produce its own light. It reflects. The light from the sun is softened, becomes gentler, less harsh, and easier to receive in the darkness. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that there are parts within you that do not shine directly, but reflect what you have experienced. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that consciousness is like the Sunday, clear, bright, able to analyze, able to explain, but not always gentle, not always easy to stay with. While the unconscious is like the moon, not clear, not direct, but always present and influencing in very subtle ways. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you are not only what you understand about yourself, you are also what you do not yet understand. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that the moon changes shape, not because it truly changes, but because in perspective and light change, sometimes full, sometimes partial, sometimes almost gone, but it is always there. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you also have parts, sometimes clear, sometimes dim, but that does not mean they disappear. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the unconscious does not speak in logical language. It does not explain. It does not argue. It appears through emotion, through images, through dreams, through things you feel, but do not always understand. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that not everything needs to be understood in order to be felt. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there is a rhythm in the unconscious, not fast, not rushed, but slow, repetitive, like the cycle of the moon. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you also have a rhythm within, not always synchronized with the outside world. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that consciousness often wants to control, wants to understand, wants clarity, but the unconscious does not need that. It simply is. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to control everything within yourself. You can allow a part of you simply to exist. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there are moments when you feel something without knowing why. A soft sadness, a quiet calm, a subtle unease. These things do not always come from logic, but from deeper currents. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle that you can listen with. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the moon does not compete with the Sunday. It does not try to shine brighter. It has its own role, and within that role, it creates a space that strong light cannot create. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to always be in the light. You can be in softness, in ambiguity, in the not yet clear. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that the unconscious is not something that needs to be fixed, not something that needs to be removed, but a part, a very important part of the whole. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle that you can accept, the unclear parts within yourself. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that there is a very special calm when you do not try to understand everything, when you allow some things simply to be there. No need to explain, no need to analyze, just feel. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that calm does not come from understanding everything, but from not needing to understand everything. Then, as you remain with all of this, without going further, everything begins to settle, very gently. Thoughts slow down, images soften, emotions quiet, like moonlight, resting on still water, breathing in and out, very slow, very soft. The body relaxes more deeply, shoulders drop, chest softens. The mind no longer tries to understand, just feeling. And you can just be there, in a space where nothing needs to be clear, nothing needs to be fully illuminated, only enough light to see and enough darkness to rest. And in that space, you can let go little by little, like moonlight, reflecting without needing to shine, very softly, very deeply, and very naturally. And sleep can come without calling, without searching, just appearing, very gently, very quietly, holding you in a stillness that is very calm, very deep, and very peaceful. And as you continue to remain in that gentle stillness, you may begin to feel that the image of the moon is not only a symbol, but a very gentle way to approach deeper parts of yourself, parts that are not loud, not rushed, but always present, like an underground current, very slow, very steady, and very real. Because if you look back, you may see that much of what shapes you does not come from clear decisions, does not come from structured thinking, but from feelings that are difficult to name. A memory you do not clearly recall, yet still influences you. An emotion you do not understand, yet still remains. An image appearing in a dream, then fading, but leaving behind a very subtle echo. Those things are like moonlight, not strong, not clear, but undeniable. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you do not need to control everything within yourself to still be yourself. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the unconscious does not operate linearly. It does not move from A to B. There is no clear logic. It is like a surface of water where reflections change with perspective, with light, with movement. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that not everything needs to be logical to have meaning. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there is a very special softness in allowing yourself not to know, not ignorance, but not needing to understand immediately, not needing to explain right away, just being with the feeling. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you can stay within a question without needing to rush toward an answer. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the moon does not illuminate the entire sky. It lights only a part. The rest remains darkness. But that combination creates depth, creates space, creates feeling. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep that you do not need to be lit everywhere within yourself. You can have unclear parts, and that is completely okay. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that the unconscious is not a place you descend into, but a place where you settle, not a lower level, but another depth. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that going inward is not losing something, but returning. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that there are things you cannot access through thinking. The more you try to understand, the farther they move. But when you relax, when you stop trying, they come on their own, very gently, very naturally, like moonlight that does not need to be searched for, yet appears when night comes. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that there are things that only appear when you are not searching. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that a very gentle trust begins to form, that you can trust what you feel, even if you do not fully understand it. Not blind trust, but a quiet listening. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you can be within yourself, without needing to explain yourself. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that this entire journey is not about finding something, but about becoming familiar with yourself, with the bright parts, and also the dim ones. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to become a perfect version. You can become a whole version. Then, as you remain with all of this, without going further, everything begins to settle very gently. Thoughts dissolve like mist. Images fade. Emotions soften like still water without ripples. Breathing in and out, very slow, very deep. The body completely relaxes. Shoulders drop. Jaw softens. Eyes rest. The mind no longer tries to understand. Just there. Very light, very still. And you can just be there. In a space where there is no pressure, no requirement, nothing that needs to be done, only presence. Very gentle, very deep, and very real. And in that presence, everything gradually dissolves. Layers of tension, layers of thought, layers of feeling, little by little, very soft, very smooth, like moonlight, dissolving into the pet night. No boundary, no separation, just merging. And you drift very slowly, very deeply, into a space where nothing needs to be held, nothing needs to be understood, only stillness. And in that stillness, sleep can come very gently, very softly, holding you like a quiet embrace, not rushed, not forced, just very deep, very calm, and very peaceful. 14. The tides within the human being. As you continue to remain in that very quiet space, you may begin to feel that what is happening inside you is not random, not a series of disconnected fluctuations, but like the ocean, there are rhythms that are very deep, very slow, and very real. Rhythms that sometimes you cannot name, but that are always there. If the ocean rises and then falls according to an invisible force, very steady, then your emotions are the same. There are days when you feel full of energy, full of emotion. Everything is clear. You know what you are doing. You feel connected. You feel alive. But then there are also days when everything recedes. Energy is lower. Emotions are dimmer. Thoughts slow down. Not because something is wrong, but because the rhythm has changed. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that this change is not instability. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that there have been times when you were very clear. You knew what you wanted. You knew where you were. Everything felt illuminated. But there have also been periods when everything became vague. You were unsure, unclear, not knowing where to go. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that both of these states are part of the same process. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there is a very natural tendency to want to hold onto the high moments, to always be clear, to always have energy, to always be stable. And when that does not happen, you begin to think that something is wrong. But if you look at the ocean, you will see that if water only rises and never recedes, it would no longer be a rhythm. If waves were only high and never settle, it would no longer be movement. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that the down is not a mistake. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that those moments when emotions recede are not emptiness, but another kind of space. A space quieter, less clear, but deeper. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that there are things that only appear when everything settles. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that these cycles are not random. They repeat. Not exactly the same, but with rhythm, with phases, with transitions. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you are not unstable. You are operating within a rhythm. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that there are moments when you want to understand everything, to control your emotions, to keep everything in the right state. But, like the tide, you cannot ask the water to stop. You cannot hold it at one level. You can only recognize and adapt. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to control every emotion to feel safe. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there is a very special lightness when you stop resisting, when you allow a low-energy day to simply be a low-energy day, a vague feeling to simply be a vague feeling. No need to fix it, no need to change it immediately. Just allow. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that acceptance does not make you weaker, but makes you more stable. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that there is a very deep intelligence within these rhythms. High energy moments are when you open outward. Low energy moments are when you integrate. Clear moments are when you act. Unclear moments are when you listen. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that every state has its role. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that you do not need to force yourself to always be in a good state. You can trust the rhythm. Trust that after the receding, there will be rising. After the blur, there will be clarity. After stillness, there will be movement. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you can rest. without fear. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that all of this is not about changing you, but about understanding you, not about control, but about recognizing the rhythm. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to become something else. You only need to listen. Then, as you remain with all of this, without going further, everything begins to settle, very gently. Thoughts slow down, emotions soften, inner movements become gentler, breathing in and out, very slow, very deep. The body relaxes, shoulders drop, chest softens, belly light. The mind no longer tries to understand, just feeling. A rhythm, very subtle, is there, and you can just be there. No need to do anything, no need to change anything, just be within the rhythm. Very gentle, very deep, and very natural. And within that rhythm, you can let go, layer by layer, like the tide, receding, not rushed, not forced, just very soft, very smooth, and very real. And sleep can come like a current of water, very gentle, very deep, holding you in a stillness that is very calm, very soft, and very peaceful. And as you continue to remain in that very slow rhythm, you may begin to feel more clearly that these inner tides are not only emotional ups and downs, but also the way your energy moves, very naturally, very quietly, like a current that does not need to be seen, yet is always in motion. There are mornings when you wake up and feel light. Everything seems easier, thoughts flow, the body is ready. You do not need to try very hard to begin. And then there are other mornings. You wake up, but without that same feeling. No clarity, no impulse, everything slower. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that both of these states are part of the same flow. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that you have tried to keep yourself in a fixed state, to always be productive, to always be positive, to always be clear. But the more you try to hold, the more tired you become, because you are trying to hold water from moving. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep. That exhaustion sometimes does not come from doing too much, but from resisting your own rhythm. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there is a very gentle release when you realize that you do not need to be the same every day. You do not need the same energy. You do not need the same emotions. You can change and still be okay. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that those moments when you go down are not moments of loss, but moments of turning inward. Less interaction, less reaction, but more feeling. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that withdrawing is not weakness, but another form of movement. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there are things you only understand when you slow down, when you are no longer pulled outward, when you are no longer trying too hard. Very small things, very subtle, begin to appear. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that not all clarity comes when you are high. Some comes when you are quiet. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that the tide does not ask if you are ready. It simply comes and goes according to its rhythm. And you, if you resist, you become tired. If you move with it, you become lighter. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you can move with your rhythm instead of against it. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that a very small but very important trust begins to form, that you do not need to worry when you go down, because you have risen before, and the rhythm will continue. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that what makes the rhythm stable is not holding one state, but allowing both rising and receding, clarity and vagueness, energy and rest. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that balance is not stillness, but movement in harmony. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there is a very special gentleness when you no longer need to fix yourself every time you feel different, when you no longer think, I need to go back to how I was, but simply recognize I am in a different rhythm. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle that you can accept without needing to change immediately. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that all of this is not a theory, but an experience, something you can feel right now, in your breath, in your body, in your state. If you notice very gently, you will see there is a rhythm, very small, very slow, but there. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you are within that rhythm right now. Then, as you remain with that feeling, without going further, everything begins to settle a little more. Not because you try to make it settle, but because you are no longer resisting, breathing in and out, longer, slower, the body heavier, as if being gently placed down, shoulders fully released, neck soft, eyes resting, the mind no longer trying to understand, no longer trying to adjust, just there, within a flow, very calm, very deep, and very natural. And you drift very gently, very slowly, with no destination, no direction, just drifting, like the tide, receding, very softly, very deeply, leaving no trace, only leaving stillness. And within that stillness, sleep does not need to come. It simply appears, very gently, very softly, holding you like a very light current, without boundary, without pressure, just very calm, very deep, and very peaceful. 15. Letting go into the natural rhythm. As you come to the final part of this very gentle journey, you may begin to feel that not everything needs to be understood in order to be at peace, and not every movement needs to be controlled in order to be stable. There are things that are operating very correctly, very naturally, even when you are not paying attention, even when you do not intervene. And it is precisely in that non-interference that a very deep kind of peace begins to emerge. If you look at the Earth, you will see that it does not resist the moon. It does not try to stop the tides. It does not try to hold the ocean at a fixed level. It simply moves with it, very slowly, very steadily, without struggle, without tension. And from that non-resistance, a balanced system gradually forms, not perfect, not static, but stable in its own way. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that perhaps you also do not need to resist everything happening inside you. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that most tension does not come from what happens, but from how you try to control it. You want emotions to be right. You want thoughts to be clear. You want your state to be stable, according to some idea. But, like the tide, everything is not designed to stand still. And the more you try to hold, the more tired you become. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you do not need to hold everything in order not to lose it. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that there is another way, very gentle, to be with yourself. Not by fixing, not by forcing, but by allowing emotions to come and go, allowing thoughts to appear and fade, allowing states to change without needing to label them as right or wrong. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that when you allow, everything begins to self-adjust. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that you do not need to understand every force acting on you in order to live within it. You do not need to know exactly why you feel this way to be able to stay with that feeling. Like the earth, it does not need to understand gravity, and yet it still rotates, still moves, still keeps its rhythm. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep that you can trust, something deeper than reason, a rhythm that is operating within you. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that a very gentle letting go begins to appear. Not a giving up, but a release of control, letting go of the need to understand, letting go of the need to keep everything the same, letting go of the need to be a fixed version of yourself. And when you let go, things do not disappear. Instead, you begin to feel more clearly what is truly present. Breath becomes clearer. The body becomes softer. Space becomes wider. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that letting go does not make you lose, but makes you lighter. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that there is a very special state, not control, and not loss of control, but moving with the rhythm, like the earth, not standing still, but not chaotic, moving within a very deep order that you do not need to see to know that it is there. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you too can live in such a state without tension, without holding, just within the rhythm. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that everything is gradually slowing down, not because you are forcing it to slow, but because you are no longer pushing it to go faster. Thoughts become fewer, emotions soften, inner movements become gentler, like water when the wind is gone. Breathing in and out, slower, deeper, more natural. The body relaxing part by part, shoulders dropping, jaw softening, eyes resting, the mind no longer needing to follow, no longer needing to understand, just there, very light, very still, and you can just be there. No need to do anything, no need to reach anywhere, no need to become anyone. Just let go, and within that letting go, you may feel a very deep rhythm supporting you without needing you to hold it. And within that rhythm, everything is operating exactly as it needs to. No need to fix, no need to force, no need to strain, just very natural. And you gradually dissolve into that rhythm very gently, very deeply, like a stream of water returning to the ocean. No boundary, no resistance, just merging. And within that merging, sleep does not need to come. It simply appears, very gentle, very soft, holding you like a vast space, very quiet and very peaceful. And you do not need to do anything more. Just let go and rest very deeply, very lightly, in a stillness that is very soft, very complete, and very serene. And as you continue to remain in that very gentle state, you may begin to realize that letting go is not an action, but a state that gradually opens when you stop holding. It is not something you have to do to let go, but something that appears when you stop doing the things that are holding you back. Stop tightening, stop controlling, stop needing to understand everything right now. And when those things settle, letting go naturally appears, like the surface of water becoming still when the wind stops blowing. Perhaps you have thought that if you let go, everything would become chaotic, that if you do not control, you will lose direction. But if you observe long enough, you will see that most of what operates in life does not require your constant control. Your heart still beats, even when you are not paying attention. Your breath still moves, even when you are not controlling it. Your body still adjusts, very subtly, to keep you in balance. And at a deeper level, your mind also has such mechanisms, self-regulating rhythms, very slow, very quiet, but always active. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you do not have to carry everything for everything to continue. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that trying to keep everything right often creates a very thin but persistent tension. You hold on to a thought because you think it should be there. You hold on to a feeling because you think it should not change. You hold on to an image of yourself because you fear losing stability. But the more you hold, the further you move away from the natural rhythm, where everything is allowed to change, to find a deeper balance. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that sometimes what exhausts you is not life, but the way you try to hold life. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that letting go is not dropping everything, not neglect, not indifference. Letting go is a very quiet trust that there are things operating on their own, even when you do not intervene, that you can put down a part of the weight without losing your value, that you can rest without interrupting the flow. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you can allow yourself to be a little lighter. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that there is a very subtle difference between holding and caring. Holding is tightening, not allowing change. Caring is being with, without forcing. When you hold, you become tense. When you care, you become soft. And perhaps letting go is not stopping caring, but shifting from holding to caring in a gentler, wider, less controlling way. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you can still care without needing to control. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may notice that very small layers in your body are beginning to release. Places you do not usually notice, like shoulders, like neck, like jaw, gradually softening, not because you force them, but because you are no longer holding them tight. And at the same time, your mind begins to do the same. Thoughts no longer needing to cling, questions no longer needing immediate answers, everything being set down, little by little, breathing in a little deeper, and out, a little longer, as if the body is finding its rhythm again, without your control. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that your body knows how to return when you do not interfere. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that a very wide space opens when you let go. Not an empty, frightening void, but a very gentle stillness, where there are no demands, no pressure, nothing that needs to be completed, only presence, very light, very real, like being in calm water, without waves, without wind, just a feeling of being held without needing to do anything. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that you are allowed to rest. Then, as you feel more deeply, you may see that what you call control gradually becomes unnecessary. Not because you lose the ability, but because you do not need to use it right now. Like when you sleep, you do not need to think, you do not need to decide, yet everything continues in a different way, deeper, quieter. And if you pause here, you may feel something very subtle, that you can do nothing and still be okay. Then, as you go deeper, you may realize that letting go is also a form of returning to the body, to the breath, to the simple feeling that you are here. No past, no future, no story, just this moment. Very light, very enough. And if you pause here, you may feel something very deep, that the present does not need to be perfect for you to rest within it. Then, as you remain a little longer, you may feel as if you are drifting very slowly in a space with no edges, no stopping point, only a very gentle current carrying you without needing to know where. No direction, no control, just drifting and being held by that very letting go, breathing in and out, very slow, very steady, like very soft waves, not rushed, not urgent. The body a little heavier, as if gently placed down, very safely, shoulders fully released, neck soft, jaw relaxed, eyes resting, the mind no longer chasing anything, just settling, very still, and you can just be there. Nothing to add, nothing to remove. Just let go and allow yourself to be carried in a rhythm that is very deep, very slow, very natural, like the earth, rotating without effort, like the ocean, rising and falling without holding, like everything operating in its own rhythm, without needing you to do anything, only that you do not resist. And in that non-resistance, a very soft stillness begins to spread from the body into the mind and wider, like a space holding you very gently, very deeply, and very safe. And sleep does not need to be called. It comes very naturally, very softly, like warm water, surrounding, supporting, and holding you in a stillness that is very complete, very soft, very deep, and very peaceful. And as you have gone through this journey, very slowly, very deeply, you may begin to realize that everything we have just explored is not only a story about the moon or about the laws of the universe, but in truth, a very gentle way for you to return to yourself, because somewhere very deep, you are also like the earth, always moving, always changing, always influenced by forces you cannot fully see and do not need to see. You have your own tides, very real cycles, rising and falling, clear and unclear, full of energy, and moments of quiet stillness. And perhaps the most important thing is not how to control all of that, but how to be with it, like the earth, not resisting the moon, not trying to hold the ocean at one level, but simply moving with it, very naturally, very steadily, and very patiently. Perhaps you can begin to feel that right now. You do not need to understand everything happening inside you. You do not need to explain every emotion. You do not need to be right or stable by any standard. You only need to be there, to feel, to listen, and to allow. In the way that Carl Gustav Jung once suggested, the human mind is not only the light of consciousness, but also deeper regions, where what is not yet clear is still operating, very quietly, but very truly. And sometimes, those parts are what guide you in the most subtle way. So, you do not need to rush. You do not need to become a better version immediately. You do not need to fix yourself. You can simply return. Return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to the very gentle feeling that you are here. Right now is enough. And if you notice, very gently, you will feel the breath in and out, a little slower, a little deeper, the body, a little softer, the mind, a little quieter, as if everything is finding its rhythm again, without you needing to do anything more. You do not need to hold, do not need to strain, do not need to understand. Just let go and allow yourself to be in that very natural flow, like the ocean, not holding each wave, like the moon, not trying to shine, but simply reflecting, like the earth, not trying to stand still, but simply moving in a very deep, stable rhythm. And you can be like that too. Right now, no need to try, no need to change, just let go and rest. As you remain in that state, a little longer, you may feel the body becoming lighter, the mind drifting away from thoughts, everything dissolving very slowly, very gently, like a stream of water carrying you deeper into a space that is very still, very safe, and very gentle. And in that space, sleep does not need to be searched for. It comes on its own, very light, very deep, holding you like a very soft embrace, not rushed, not forced, just very natural. If you feel that this journey brings you a little peace, a little stillness, you may continue to walk with the channel by subscribing so you do not miss gentle, meaningful stories that help you slow down and return to yourself whenever you need. And now, you do not need to do anything more. Just close your eyes, relax, and allow yourself to drift into sleep very gently, very deeply, and very peacefully. Sleep well.